I want to say assalamu alaikum to everybody. This is Clifton Raheem Bradley in the United States of America. I am in Chicago, Illinois. Okay, we have a lot of economical problems that are going on. Hi to the Muslims in the United States, Canada, Central America, Asia, Africa, the UK, England, Australia, Europe. And the prayers always go out to the people in Ukraine because they are suffering, but we're going through economical problems. We're going through economical times right now. And we will be able to take telephone calls. Yeah. Who am I? I am Clifton Raheem Bradley of the Underground Railroad television show in Chicago. We come on every Saturday night at 10:30 p.m. Central Time. Tomorrow, if things work out, I'm going to have 9 o'clock. At 9 o'clock, I'm going to have Miss Stewart on, the mother of the Matrix. That'll be an exciting show, but it's going to be an exciting show right now because I got Mr. Lynette coming in and I'd have him on a regular basis to talk about global global issues because he is a journalist. He is a journalist. He goes on different talk shows and seeing as though he's a journalist, he knows he does his research. And what we're going to discuss is we're gonna take a close look at the economy. Okay. And come to think of it, y'all, I gotta go because I gotta get my pencil and pad. You see, he Mr. Lanier is so Mr. Lanier is so quick. He's quick on the gun. It's hard to keep up with him. But see, that's what happened when you get in your 60s. Yeah, that's right. I said 60. You know what I think God for that. Thank God for that. So waiting on Mr. Lanier to come on. He should be on in a minute. You know what? But I have learned something about this. Sometimes things don't work out the way you anticipate. Sometimes technically, because you know what? Sometimes people mind you. Sometimes, but it's all the will of God. It's all about the will of Allah. It's all. So, but whatever the Creator wants, that's fine. So, so what is going on? I hope that you will share this in the chat room. Hope you will share this. Hope you will comment. I hope that you will subscribe. And just waiting on Mr. Lanier to come in. Sometimes, you know what? Sometimes people have a hard time getting in. I don't know yet. I haven't quite figured it out though. But you know what? I usually don't have a hard show. I don't have no hard time. But it's just the same. I'm gonna call Mr. Lanier. And, I'm almost on a first name basis with him. So I'm gonna call him. Yeah. So Mr. Lanier, let's say this is what Mr. Lanier does. He does this, and I believe when I sit back and this is what Mr. His bio and the information that he has given me that he is retired. That's what I believe. I believe he's retired. I believe that. So I'm just waiting on him to come in. That's all I'm waiting on. And once he comes in, we'll be able to get some of that good information that people are just starving for. So I do not know what's going on with Mr. Lanier. You know what I'm going to do? I'm going to try something. You know what? Because I'm getting pretty good. I'm getting pretty good with this. I'm getting pretty good with this. So I'm going to try this. So I better get rid of that. So, Mr. Lanier, where are you? You have the link in your Facebook. You have the link in your Facebook. Waiting on Mr. Lanier to come in. You know, try the link. The link works. You know what I was thinking? Hey, man, you know what? It was a problem on my side. I thought it was a problem. It was a difficulty on my side. There's no difficulty on my side. But you have to remember one thing. He's on the other side of the globe. That's where he is. He's in Hawaii. He's in the land of the palm trees. That's where he is. He's in the land. Ready? Ready. So, David, me and David, David Costa, that's my partner, David Costa. You know what? Me and David Costa gonna have to do a show because you know what? I haven't had David on in a long time, a long time. But you know, I called him. He, oh, it's time for. So, in the United States, Muslims know what that sound is. That means it's the time for prayer, and it is Maghrib, and Maghrib is like there's five prayers that we observe. You know what? Maghrib is like the fourth one. So, waiting on Mr. Lynette. He has the link. I gave it to him, and I don't know what is happening. So you know what? But if you want to utilize the link and come in and have comments, you can tell me what is going on in your part of the country, your region. What's going on with you? What's going on? Is there a crisis? There's an economical crisis that is going on right now in the United States of America. It's economical crisis. But what is going on where you are? Is it good? Do you feel the effects of the war? Do you feel that effect? Do you feel it? I know in the United States, you know what, things just have changed because you know what, the effect the cause and effect of the war that is going on in the Ukraine right now with Russia and the United States of America and NATO is what it's done is it's made the gas prices go up so high. So call me and tell me what do you think? What do you think? The telephone number, there may be somebody out there that cannot see. The telephone number is 1-312-884-57. I'm sorry, 9757. So that's so I don't know. I don't know what's going on with Mr. Albert. I don't understand it. Hey, I don't understand it, B. But Lanier, I'm waiting on him. Okay, Mr. Lanier, if you are out there, come on, man. We're waiting. Everything is set up exactly the way it's supposed to be set up, but there may be something that's going on. I'm gonna take a drink. I really want y'all to know this is no alcohol because I don't drink alcohol. Sauce. So don't understand. But what is going on where you live at? How has the war impacted your life? How has it impacted your life? Did it happen to cause you any problems? You know, I don't. You know that's something I would like to know. There's my buddy Chuggy, man. You know what? That's my guy. He disappointed me. He came to Chicago, didn't even disappoint me. But it's okay. Because you know what? He's still my friend. You still my friend. You still my friend. Sometimes, sometimes you learn something. You care more about a friend than they care about you. They just say action speaks louder than words. Sometimes, sometimes sometimes people make you understand something without saying a word. You realize that you may be a priority. They may be you may be a priority. They may be a priority in your life, but you may not be a priority in theirs. Then, you know what you have to do? You have to learn to accept it. You have to learn to accept it for what it is. And then you know what you do? You don't hold no bitterness because what happened is you may grow up together, although you part. People separate and they develop new interests. And you have to respect it. And then what I'm learning is, you know what? You should never have to beg. You should never have to beg for no friendship. I should never say, man, you know what? You coming in Chicago? Are you gonna come visit me? True friend, that's something they would want to do. But I learned that. I learned that the hard way. But you know what? But it ain't no animosity. You know, but you know what? From what I understand, once people show you who they are, you better believe. I better believe them. But you know what? But people have the right to do what they want to do. Recall, Mr. Lanier, I don't believe this. I don't believe this. What? You know what? But it's no thing, because you know what? What they say in Hollywood, this is not Hollywood. They say that the show must go on. So you know what? So in Chicago right now, it is so bad because you know what happens. The mayor of Chicago. We have a mayor of Chicago called Mayor Lightfoot. You might have a constable, or you might have a premier, but we have a mayor. Okay, I'm talking about the president, I guess. But in your country, probably it's premier. But I don't know what you would call a mayor. But the thing is, one thing about it, the gas prices are so high. And I heard the gas prices are high in California, real high. California, my friend David Koss from out of California told me that the gas prices are like $7 a gallon. But you know what? Hey, it's going to go up higher than that. You know, so they are giving people the opportunity to get gas cards in Chicago, and that's a good thing. And I think it's $150, $150. But it down there, if you have a big automobile, it down there takes you like let me see, almost $100 or $90 to fill up your tank. You know, okay, it always does. Yeah, I'm sending a message to this guy, the second link. Sending a message to my site link. Okay. So, you know what? So in Chicago, it's the gas prices are so high, and you know what? Before the gas prices did go up, you know, I would look at where I live at, and it would be people going places, going here, going left, going right. But you know what? Now that I look, I don't see that many cars that are moving. What I'm saying is, there are people, they're not going anywhere unless they have to. You know what I'm saying? Because it used to be a time that um it used to be a time that you could get in your automobile and drive. You could drive. You can drive, and He will be coming on in 3 more minutes. 3 more minutes. Well, it used to be a time that you could get in your automobile. And you know what? I would just go, you know what? I'm a joyride. Joyride. Joyride means you get in your automobile and just because you joyride, you go have fun. That's what you go do. You go around and look at the scenery. But when the prices of gasoline are five close to $5, you sitting at home. You sitting at home. I'm gonna say most people. I'm not. This doesn't go for the people that's making over 100,000. This doesn't go for the people that's making over $100,000. Yes, you're making over $100,000 a year. That doesn't make any difference. You know, I'm talking about the common folks. The common folks. The common folks. So, like I said, we will be having Mr. Lanier come on in about 2 minutes, and you scheduled to come on at, let's say, 8:15. It is 8:15 p.m. in the United States, in Chicago, Illinois. That's what time it is. I started the broadcast early, and tomorrow we will, inshallah, because Allah, we will have one. Yeah, boy. Shh. Tell everybody. No, tell everybody. Sophia Stewart. Very interesting. You know what? She is the owner. It's a movie called The Matrix. Arnold Schwarzenegger. And I'm pleased if I'm mispronouncing his name. Y'all know I ain't got the best English in the world. And let me see. What's the brother's name? And The Matrix. The Matrix. And what happened is they stole her copyrighted intellectual property, but she took them to court. And people don't know what the Matrix is. They don't know what the Terminator is. What it is it was a movie that was made. And I'm looking at them, so wow, like last week. I totally messed up. I messed up last week. I did. You know what I'm saying? Hey, you know I misspelled her name. You know what? She went wrong. I can't blame her. You know what? But I'm a big boy. I can take it. You know, but she is Sophia Stewart. And you know what? I would like for y'all just to look up her name. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to put Mr. Albert. I'm going to put his in Facebook. It's in Facebook. That's his Facebook. You go to his Facebook and you can join his Facebook, but he is on Twitter too, and that is in the description. That's in the description. Okay, ready. So you know what? So Mr. Albert, I'm just waiting on Mr. Albert to come on because you know what? The show started officially at 8:15. But I'm going to tell people that are just tuning in, this is the Underground Railroad television show. And what you're looking at is SHAYMAR Media Productions. We do video productions in Chicago, in the United States. And we edit videos, and we can burn DVDs. And there's some other things that we can do. But you know what? You're already a star. We can help make you a bigger star. And that's something that we can do. We're a small company, but we're growing. We're growing. And Lord knows we have had our growing. We have had our growing pains. Yes, we have. We have had our growing pains, but it's okay. The second website. Right. So we've had our growing pains at SHAYMAR Media Productions. And you know what? I'm at the helm, so you know what? I have to take. What you say in the military? I have to take full accountability. And you know what? Take accountability. But you know what? It has helped me. It has helped me. I've had like fabulous mentors. And you know, it's been a travel. It really has. And you know what? You ever do something and you know what? This is something that you always wanted to do. I always wanted to do video production. But you know what? Needed knowledge. Needed knowledge. That's something that I needed. I needed knowledge. And you know what? Knowledge is power. Because you know what? It gives you the ability to not have to be forced to learn. Okay? Not forced to learn something else. Okay, you see, cannot get in. This is how this technology works. Clear your, clear your. Guest is trying to get in. You know what? See, when you get when you get education, well, first of all, when you see refuge in God, Allah, that's the first thing you should do. Okay. After you do that, you know what? You go somewhere in a corner, and you know what you do? You pray. You make your salats. You ask God to show you what you should do in regards to these things. See, a lot of times, you know what? We make errors, we make mistakes, and we're gonna make errors and mistakes. But a lot of times, we make an attempt to go on what we believe is right, what we believe is wrong. But all you got to do is just, you know what? Go to your scriptures. Go to your belief system. And you know what? It will be all right. It will be all right. So that is something that it will be. Everything will be all right. You know, hey, Kevin, I want you to come on the show so bad, brother. I want you to come on the show. So, let me tell you something about Kevin. Kevin, you know what? I appreciate you, brother. I appreciate your support. But you know what? I want Kevin to come on the show. I've been trying to get Kevin on the show for almost 7 months. You know, it's a situation, Mr. Kevin, where all you got to do is call in. You just call in. Because you know what? Kevin is intuitive. You know what? He has something to say. Okay? He has something to say. And you know what? I enjoy being in a conversation with him. Because he's very intelligent, very astute. And you know what? And like people like that, it makes me think. It makes me think. And you know what? I've always appreciated him. I really have. And we did a show talking about the prison system. 5-7. 5-7. We did a show talking about the prison system. And Kevin, he just blew me away. Because you know what? I used to work for the prison system. Yes, I used to work for Statesville Prison. And you know what? It was a heck of a. See, there's a lot of things that go on behind those walls that you know what y'all just don't know about. See, when people come behind them walls for a photo op, there's things y'all don't know. You don't know that they're cleaning the prison up. You don't know that they're painting to try to make it look right. You don't know that. You do not know. You don't know that. Yeah. So that's my guess. Yeah. Hi. Yes. Hello. Hi. Oh, wow. Oh, wow. You probably got to clear your browser. Hold on. People that are listening right now, I'm talking to my guests right now. You probably have to just clear your browser. That's all. Oh, you're on a phone. No wonder you can't get off. Oh, 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 okay. You had to go. Oh, I thought you said put the Twitter account in the description. Okay, I can go there right now. Okay, it ain't gonna take no but a minute. Okay, let me go to your Twitter. People don't know I'm talking to him to. Okay, what I'm gonna do is this is what I'm gonna do. I know what I gotta do. Okay. So I'm gonna put that link. I'm going to your Twitter. I'm going to Twitter right now. So y'all looking at me multitask. And what I'm doing is I'm going to go to Twitter right now. I'm going there right now. Okay, right now. TWITTER. Okay, Twitter. I am at Twitter. Okay. Yeah, I love this. Okay. Now I'm trying to get into my account. Twitter. Stop. Twitter. Okay. Okay. I'm at Twitter right now. And what I'm going to do is, what is your Twitter account? Okay. Okay. Twitter. Okay. Hold on for a second. TWITTER. Let me see. Just 1 second. Okay, just 1 second. So, y'all hold on for 1 second. I should give them something to listen to. Okay, okay, okay. Twitter at CRITICINC, right? Okay, okay. It's in there. Okay, it's in there. Okay, so okay. This is what I'm gonna do. Okay, okay. Did it come to you? TWITTER at CRITICE Inc. IN. Ink is INC, right? Yeah. Okay. Okay. There I go. There you go. Okay, I just put it in there. It says tweet, and I put it in. So, so Yep. Let me see. I'm gonna do it again. Okay. TWITTER at. Can you spell the last Okay, so you know what, people that are looking at this, what I'm going to do is I'm going to give you something to look at. Okay, it's a video that was done. What I'm going to do is I'm going to give you some. I'm going to go back to Mr. Lanier, something that me and Mr. Lanier did. Very interesting. So you can sit back and look at it. Okay. Okay. So this is what I want to do. I'm going to go back. I know what I do. Okay. I'm gonna give y'all something to look at. Okay. And y'all tell me what you think it is. Okay, so I'm gonna share. Okay. Well, okay. Alright, Chicago leader. Okay. I'm gonna give y'all something to look at. Okay.
This is like equal power. Okay, thank you, brother. What city are you?
Oh, so did that work?
Atlanta? Okay, thank you, brother. Thank you. This is a question he said he wanted. You said which one is more powerful?
Spell it to
now
me.
He's trying to pit one against the other, which I think you can do. But which one is more powerful? I don't think it makes. But go ahead.
Okay.
I'm not gonna do that because this ain't no situation where we glorify one over the other. So I'm definitely not gonna do that. Both of these men are very respected. Both of these men are very powerful, and it's all about being black at this point. And actually, brother, you sound like you the same brother calling and saying you from different cities. You know what I'm saying? I'm not knocking you or whatnot, but you know, let's just keep this shit real. And let's get the bullshit out of here. You know what I'm saying? This ain't about anything that you can get anybody indicted over saying some crazy shit. This is about keeping people in real perspective over the reality of what's happening. And if you on tinkering and tolerant on which organization to follow, I can't help you with none of that. You know,
might be the government. But you know what? But you know what? But this is something I do know. You say a man might be feminine. I know somebody, they went to prison. Man, they buffed up, working out every day. I said, man, how did you let them break you down like that?
Wow.
He put his head down. He said, you can't beat the whole bar.
Wow.
Would you say that's true that you can't beat the whole bar?
On your computer.
Well, I can say this. I can say that is true, but the mob has rules against rape. The mob don't rape.
Yeah.
That's one of the rules, both of them. You know what I'm saying? Both of the mobs. You don't rape, you don't forcibly take nobody's manhood. That's law. And that's what I'm upset about when they start breaking these organizations down. That's something that you can't do. You'll get seriously violated for forcibly taking a man's manhood.
Oh, now I see what you're talking about.
I don't know. You know what though?
You spell it for me.
I believe it's, you know what, the weak ones, they will take this manhood. I'm talking about if you walk into prison and they know that you weak, they will. They will.
Can you spell that for me?
I believe. I'm not gonna say how I know that, but I'm gonna leave that alone. But they will take your manhood. You don't think so?
I'm not saying that. I'm saying forcibly. When a man has decided I'm a man and that's what's happening, and he's in the cell and he's faced with two or three, you understand me, two or three guys, you know, that's a violation if y'all trying to take this brother's manhood. That's what the mob is about. You see what I'm saying? We can't allow you to take no man's manhood like that. That's inhumane. That's savage. We don't get down like that. But if you in a conversation nightly, listen to what I'm saying. If you in a conversation nightly, each and every night, where a man is coming at your manhood, you know what I'm saying? And then at some point or time, you let that thing go. Nobody can nobody can say anything.
I mean, what can a young boy that decides to pull a trigger expect if he's not affiliated with no gang once he go into prison? I already know but go ahead. What can he expect?
That's bad. First of all, when you was on the streets and you decided to pull the trigger, you should have been affiliated with something ahead of time. Because as you go in the state of Illinois, if you go in the penitentiary system and you're not affiliated normally, for safety reasons, brothers are joining Latin Kings. Because Latin Kings have an in-house policy where when you come to the door, you can become a Latin King. Now you can see black Latin Kings, you can see Mexican, whites, you see Latin Kings, you understand me, of all affiliations, because they have an in-house policy of accepting you, as soon as you come through the door, whether you're affiliated or not. Growth and development doesn't do that. Vice Lord brothers don't do that. They have to recognize you as somebody that used to be with them on the streets in order to bring them in. I don't know. I think the brother Corky Mack said that's bullshit. Yes, they will take your man.
Oh yeah, I see it now, man.
Where you from, brother Corky Mack? Because we don't do that in Illinois.
I got it.
They will believe me, brother. You know what? I can tell you some things about Statesville, but you know what? I don't want to say it. Biggie. I'm just gonna say the name Biggie. Okay, but you know what? I can tell you some things about Statesville prison. Okay.
Okay.
Yeah. So why is it important that a young man respect his mother and respect his father? And there's so many men that don't respect their mother and father, but when they go to prison, they follow orders. Why is that?
Well, when you go to prison, you're gonna follow orders right off the bat because your life is in danger. Mm-hmm. When you go to prison, you're gonna follow orders. Or else you're not gonna make it out of prison. And as far as them not respecting their mother and not respecting their fathers, that's a shame. That's despicable. If you don't respect the womb that you come from, then you don't respect yourself. You know what I'm saying? And if you don't have any self-respect, then what does that amount to?
Do you think it's a situation where sometimes the parents are blamed because they try to be their child's best friend? And when you try to be your child's best friend, your child or the person that you're raising, they lose some type of respect for you. You start drinking with them, you start smoking with them, you start saying, do you think that's an aspect that's involved?
Well, you can't tell people how to raise their children. You know what I'm saying? You definitely can't do that, but that's not something that I would do. Even if I did get drunk, you know what I'm saying, or I was a drunk, you know what I'm saying, I wouldn't drink with my son. But if I did smoke, I wouldn't smoke with my son. You know what I'm saying? I wouldn't do that.
Corky Mack say he was in Statesville, brother. I used to work in Statesville.
He said he was in Statesville?
Corky Mack. Yeah, Statesville.
What year? Brother Corky Mack, what year was you in there that you seen brothers getting raped by the mob?
I don't know if it was B West or B East, brother. But
you was in the row houses? You was in the circle houses?
No.
You was in the octagon?
I ain't gonna say it. I'm gonna say the name. You know what? I can say the name. Now he's dead. You ever hear Big Low?
Yeah, I know Big Low.
And brother,
yeah,
I could tell you some stories.
Big Bobby Low.
I could tell you some stories, brother. So when I listen to somebody say your manhood can't be taken, your manhood could be taken, brother.
Yeah. Now look. When I say this, see, the question was the mob. That was what I was defending. The mob. I'm not talking about now. Big Low is a big fella, and he's powerful. Now let me tell you what. Let me tell you this.
No disrespect, Big Low. That was his thing.
I mean, let's just say this. He in respect of him, he would lean on you like that. But there are people that I know that he didn't get. You know what I'm saying? A couple of brothers that I know them personally that he didn't get because they was real men. You know, it's like, okay, well then I'm not doing that, so I'm gonna walk myself. I'm going to say it. I ain't doing that. You know what I'm saying? But you can't say the mob was doing that. That's what he was doing. You understand what I'm saying? I just want to make that clear.
Yeah, man. Horrifying, man. But like I say, you know what? I don't believe that your child or young person could be your best friend. I believe they lose some type of respect for you at some point. They do. And it's sad. You're not really preparing them for the world when you tell them to do something and they say, I do it in 5 minutes. But that's not, when I tell you to do something. See, I look at it, you know what? What advice would you give to a young lady that is raising a child by themselves and they don't have a male role model for that young man to look at? Because you know what? I believe in most cases, a woman cannot raise a boy into a man. In most cases.
You getting ready to have all the ladies set with you, boy.
No. You know what I said? All cases. Do you agree with that?
Well, we both of us are of the Islamic persuasion, and you know what we believe. That ain't no question. It takes a man to raise a man and a woman to raise a woman. You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. So that's how we believe. But other people don't. They don't believe like that. Me and my son, you know, I would never. This is my bloodline. This is my flesh of my flesh. I wouldn't allow his mother to raise him. You know what I'm saying? He's got to go with me. You know, my daughter, she can go with you. But he's got to go with me.
Alhamdulillah. So, brother, tell us about the event that is. You say what? Because we're gonna share this. I'm going to post this again on Facebook, on YouTube, and I hope that you post it on your media. And you know what? Tell us about the event that coming up in terms of the future. What can we do to help and aid and assist Brother Larry Hoover and Jeff Ford and Larry Hoover? What can we do?
Well, there's an event coming up, you know, the benefit concert. December 9th. Okay. December 9th in Los Angeles, California, Los Angeles Coliseum. Mm-hmm. You know, it's gonna be a concert again. You understand me? By Ye and Drake coming together, and this is for the support. Also, if you're not with that, I want you to, if it's Facebook or whatever, Google Free My Father. You know, and get on board with that with my brother's campaign. You understand me? To free his father. You know, or you can take just Google Larry Hoover Enterprise. You know what I'm saying, and follow some of the things and get the info for LarryHooverJr.com. You know what I'm saying, and become involved in that way. Therefore, you know, your help can go directly, you know, to freeing Mr. Larry Hoover.
And you know what? That is very, very important. These type of brothers, they can motivate. I'm going to emphasize that they can talk to the youth in a language that the pastor, that the preacher, that the imam, that the cardinal don't have the ability to speak in, to motivate them.
Right.
We must stop the killing. But you know what? I'm not saying they can stop the killing. They can minimize the killing. What would you say? They can stop the killing or minimize it?
I would say minimize, because you always got these rogue guys that's just gonna do what they gonna do anyway. Which you sometimes you might have to kill them. So that's a murder. You know what I'm saying? So
we don't want to do that.
Right. No, we don't want to do that. You know what I'm saying? But in civilized society, you know, especially when you go over to the Middle East, you know, some things, you know, that you did require death. You know, that was the payment for it. You know,
law. Yeah,
exactly. Some things would require, you know, thieves get their hands cut off. We don't want to see you with one hand, brother, because now you can only do half the work, but you can't be running around here stealing either. You know what I'm saying? So, you know, but
man, I'm getting talking about Sharia law, man.
Yeah, Sharia law, exactly. You know
what? You know, as a Muslim, well, you know what? I'm gonna keep that out of it because I'm concentrating on Larry Hoover and Jeff Ford. You know, with my religious persuasion. And one thing I have to do, I have to learn to be objective. Right. It's kind of hard to be, man, you know.
Well, see, that's the thing with these organizations. These organizations that I'm telling you right off the bat, they basically work on Sharia law. That's why the discipline is so strict. You understand me? And the structure is so keen when it's there, because there are consequences to pay. And most of the times when you're dealing with black men, you have to make those consequences, you know, as such, where brothers do not want to have to deal with those consequences. That's how you stop those actions.
And we're going to end on that note. We have Albert, and you know, I am so glad that he get
this is something.
Yeah, you know what? What's what happened? I have to turn this off. And you know what? We have Mr. Lanier. He's fabulous. He's awesome. He's a journalist. He's insightful. He has knowledge that he can share to educate you, to keep you out of the darkness. He is coming to us by satellite. Actually, it is satellite, but this is not $1 million platform. So
that's true. It's certainly not. I had to try to figure this out because the screen wasn't allowing me. Why there were technical difficulties. The screen wasn't allowing me in for some reason, but I had to try to figure it out.
Sometimes, you know what, this is top technology. But you know what, Brother Albert, you know what, he is someone that has a lot of knowledge, and you know what, he has a new YouTube page. And people that look at the Underground Railroad television show in Chicago, I urge you to go there and subscribe. But I'm going to shut my mouth because we're going to talk about the economy. But I'm going to let him make an introductory of himself. Thank you. And then say first of all, thank you for accepting the invitation to come on Underground Railroad television show in Chicago.
Oh, thank you for having me. Thank you for having me. So, yeah, just by way of introduction, my name is Albert Lanier. I'm a retired journalist, technically. I was a freelance journalist and freelance writer for 22 years for a variety of publications. Wrote for newspapers or magazines, wrote for other kinds of publications. Excuse me. And I also, some of these include Honolulu Weekly, Pacific Business News, Hawaii Magazine, Asian Week, Puget Sound Business Journal, a number of them. And so I've been retired since 2017, freelance journalist. And I started a blog, or wrote a blog from 2017, about a couple months after I retired. Was it April, I guess? Nearly a couple months after I retired. Let me see, April till about February of this year. So it was on medium.com. It's it's medium.com/@the 50 people still want to check it out. They're interested in it.
I'm gonna put the link here. I'm gonna put the link in there. You say it's Medium? MEN.
Yeah, medium.com. It's, people can still read it if they want. Yeah, well, that's about right. It's a sweet spot.
Medium?
Yeah, medium.com. Sorry, I'm adjusting this, but there have been all kinds of technical aspects with this.
I don't even know if I got that right. Okay. So yeah. So you know what? It must be wonderful to be retired, but you know what? But once a journalist, always a journalist.
Way to look at it.
Yes.
Sometimes it seems that way. So, yeah, currently what I'm doing is I'm on a media tour of programs and shows and casts and so forth. I'm touring them to promote my official YouTube channel. So I'm technically, this is my official YouTube account for me. Oh boy. I'm sorry. I'm like,
you say hi to your crowd. Hey.
Yeah. So if it's my official YouTube channel.
Okay.
So.
And what is the name of that channel? What is it? And you know what? I'm going to tell people, once I get the link, that link will be in the description. Okay? Go ahead, bro.
The name of the channel is Writer Albert Lanier. That's Writer, WRITER, Albert, ALBERT, Lanier, LANIER.
When I can't keep
Writer Albert Lanier.
AB.
So that's gonna be my official YouTube channel. My official YouTube.
Can you spell Lanier for me? Because I'm putting it in there where the people can go to it. Lanier, LANIER. IER at youtube.com, right?
Yeah, I'm no good at links, so I don't know how to. I've never been good at links and linking up, so
I'm putting it in there. I put it in there right now. You know what? The people that are looking at this, just don't look at it. Share it with your friends, because he's got news you can use, and I stole that. I'm plagiarizing right now. So you know what, man? I want to ask you. You specific, you know what's going to be the goal? What is the theme of your YouTube website? What is?
Well, that is my YouTube channel as a writer. That is my official YouTube channel as a writer. So that is officially the place for me as a writer. I'm currently a professional writer and ghostwriter. I've been ghostwriting since 2014. I freelance journalist, as I mentioned before, from about 1994, with the exception of about 4 months, 2004, from 1994 to about 2017.
You just scared me. Ghostwriter. What is a ghostwriter? You just scared me. What is a ghostwriter?
A ghostwriter is somebody who writes for other people.
Okay, I was just
or other client and other people. Yeah.
Okay.
But anyway, like I said, it's my official YouTube account, and it's my account. It's the official YouTube account. So it's my account as a writer and former journalist and current professional writer and ghostwriter. So that's the place. I already have a few videos that I brought over from TikTok. I did a series there called From the Freelancer, which is about freelancing. And I'm going to, people can go and check it out yet. Lives yet, meaning live streams on that account yet. So I think on YouTube, I think you've been on YouTube a while, right?
Yeah, I've been on YouTube a long time.
I think, don't you have to hit a certain number of subscribers to be able to go live?
You know, the reason I don't know, because I hit that plateau a long time ago. I'm not saying it in arrogance, but I've been on for a long time. So
that sounds about right. I would probably forget if I were in your position too. Like, you don't remember these things. Like, I'm YouTube. I just started on another account that I have there. So I started live streaming. So on YouTube. So
I'm gonna start another channel. You know.
Okay.
But I want to ask you, Mr. Lanier, you wanted to specifically talk about the economy and the war. How is it affecting us economically? How is it affecting us? How is it hurting us? Is it helping certain places? And maybe you can elaborate on it, educate us.
Well, actually, specifically what I'm at, specifically what I'm looking at discussing is sort of the economic conflict that has emerged from, I would say the economic conflict against Russia. And also the sort of global force, what's going on, some actions globally in regards to economics and fiscal move. That's what I would also say. So the first thing I would probably talk about would be that a lot of people have talked about the Ukraine war, right?
Yeah.
The war that's been declared, the special military operation, as the Russians call it, since late February. And they've been in Ukraine for over 70 days. And there's fighting going on now. Supposedly or reportedly, the costs of the Ukraine war, one number I've seen is $900 million the Russians have spent or are spending on this war thus far. And so it's a war that has since late February. Most people have focused on the military conflict, the fighting in places like Kharkiv and Mariupol and so forth. And to some extent from Ukraine forces. But to me, what's more interesting, it has been and continues to be the economic war that's waged against Russia by the West.
Yes.
And I think also some of the economic moves that I see going on. For example, it's probably well known that Russia's been hit with massive, and I mean massive amounts of sanctions. And that these sanctions have kind of, I call them two types of sanctions. They're what I call soft sanctions or social sanctions, right? You're looking at Russian athletes that are banned from places like Wimbledon and other sporting events, and people are losing their jobs. Russians losing their jobs in other countries for not, criticizing Putin or standing up for that. So those are what I call the soft sanctions. Then you have what I call the hard sanctions, which are the real economic sanctions. And so what you have are sanctions that have been hitting the Russians to a certain extent, right? For example, you had, I think it's fairly recently, you had a couple of banks that were removed from, including one of the largest banks in Russia, that were removed from the SWIFT banking system, international banking system. And so that makes transfers, financial transfers, very different, right? But what's interesting is, and so you also had the U.S., among the other, you've got NATO, you've got the EU looking to ban oil and gas from Russia, because Russia is a petro state, meaning it's an oil and gas state. Oil and gas account for over 30% of their and so you have the rest, all these other European countries, countries in Europe, the EU, of course, in Belgium. The EU deciding that they're going to ban Russian oil and gas. Because Europe is dependent on Russian oil and gas. And you also have had moves like the fact that the U.S. has frozen gold and other assets outside of Russia from like Russian central bank, right? A figure that I remember seeing was.
I'd like to ask you something in regards to. I would like to ask you something in regards to that.
It's like,
do you think it's justifiable that there are oligarchs in Russia and their accounts are being frozen? Do you think that it's justifiable? And what do you think the reaction of the Russian people will be? Do you think it will be at some point to overthrow him?
Well, that's a political question more so. As to the oligarchs, yeah, they've been hit. I mean, you know, I think their assets have been frozen, you know, depending on where they've hidden their assets, because a lot of these so-called oligarchs, meaning millionaires, multimillionaires, and billionaires, you know.
Is it justifiable? That's what I wanted to ask you. Is it
justifiable to go after oligarchs?
Yes.
Well, I think, again, when you look at this as financial war, you're trying to hit the places where Russian economic power invests. And in the oligarchs, you have power because they're multi-millionaires and billionaires. So, like I said, this is a massive amount of sanctions, massive number of sanctions that, from what I've seen, sorry, move this around. This is, sorry.
All right. Get comfortable. Get comfortable. That's right.
Right. I'm trying to adjust this camera. So you're talking about sanctions they're hitting everything they can. And so oligarchs, of course, have resources because they're enormously wealthy. So they're going after as many resources as they can. As I mentioned before, or let's try to mention, for example, you had the Russian central bank, and they had their gold reserve and their other kinds of financial reserves. They were frozen by the United States to the tune, I think the total number was $40 billion that they had in reserves in general. About 300 billion of that got frozen. So the U.S. froze about 300 billion, 600 billion in assets that the Russian central bank has. So when you talk about the oligarchs, you know, again, they see the oligarchs as a financial resource. And I guess when you look at the U.S. and other countries, UK, for example, and other European nations, some of them are not, and of course EU, they're not leaving anything to task. They're trying to go after as many sources of not just revenues and but as many assets. So these oligarchs are going to try to, they've already offshored their finances, and some of these people have looked for other places to live, obviously, and they already live in different locales, different in the world. So again, the mindset that I can see is they're going after as many resources as they can. Whether or not, I'm sure the oligarchs will call it monstrously unfair and say, hey, we don't direct policy, we don't have anything to do with the war. The oligarchs will tell you it's unfair.
You know, and I would like to know, you being a scholar and knowing about having a cosmopolitan view of life, I would like to know, what is Europe going through right now economically? How is it hurting them? How is it impacting their lives in Europe? Because we know that Germany used to get gasoline from Russia. How is it impacting?
Well, I think the main impact that I can see is, everyone's been talking about, for example, rising inflation, for example. So inflation's been rising around the world in a number of countries. Of course, European nations, but also other nations around the world as well, the U.S. So there's inflationary rates and inflation. You also have, in terms of Europe, the impact, I think, is an energy perspective, because countries are dependent upon energy. Any country is dependent upon energy, meaning oil. They're dependent upon oil. And, you know, again, when you look at this from an economic standpoint and from a material standpoint, you know, the Russians, I think, made a mistake in invading Ukraine. I think from a political perspective, I could argue from an economic perspective on the surface. On the surface in terms of economic, because it's costing them. It's not only costing their banking institutions, you know, when they're having assets frozen and being kicked out of the SWIFT system. It's also hurting them in terms of, I would say, other areas, like politically and in terms of PR, per se. You know, there has been, you know, a massive, massive backlash against Russians on a level that I haven't really seen with any country going to war in postmodern times. So there's that. I mean, in terms of Europe, I think I would look at energy. And the fact is that a lot of European nations are dependent upon Russia. They're dependent upon Russia for oil and gas. Germany, for example, I think it's 50% of its gas from Russia. And, you know, other nations have much higher, like Austria, for example, have much higher rates of oil and gas that they get from Russia. So Russia is not just a major petro state. You know, after all, revenues, it is probably one of their major, if not the major export. It accounts for what, way over 30% of their economy, close to 37, probably 37, but over 30% of their export revenues come from oil and gas and sales of oil and gas. So it's crucial. And so a lot of the European nations, a lot of nations in Europe are dependent upon Russian oil and gas. That's where I think it's because oil and gas are energies that power these nations, and of course also help power product in whatever areas, whether you're talking about retail, whether you're talking about, even to some extent, agriculture, you know, farm machines and so forth. In various other industries and areas, you know, oil and gas, energy helps make economies. And so the reaction, for example, EU has come out and said that it wants to ban Russian oil and gas, right? It wants to ban Russian oil and gas, but Hungary, for example, has come out and said they're against it. They won't join in. Hungary was dependent upon, you know, Viktor Orban, I think is the head of Hungary. And he's come out, I think he came out and said that this would be like, this would be like a nuclear bomb or something along that line. I don't want to misquote him, but it's like a nuclear, it was a nuclear issue, almost a issue, like probably a nuclear bomb, because it would destroy their economy. If Hungary, because it's a landlocked nation in Europe, and it doesn't have access to the sea, thus the pipelines, for example, you know, certain kinds of pipelines. Because they're a landlocked nation and because they don't have the oil and gas themselves, they don't have that kind of natural infrastructure. They don't have that for themselves. They're dependent on Russian oil and gas. They're dependent, like a lot of other countries are, on oil or gas, or both. And they said, yeah, this is devastating to our economy. We can't go along with that. So, I mean, when you look at Hungary's case, and when you look at the need for energy in Europe, in general, you know, that I would say is a major part of it, because any economy has to run, any aspect of the economy has to be powered by something, powered by fuel, powered by oil and gas, obviously. And so loss of oil and gas, loss of that would be devastating to economies, devastating to businesses and industry and so forth. So I think I look at energy there in regards to European dependency. In terms of European,
you know, as we
probably other aspects. I mean, you can also look at food, for example. You know, it was known as the bread basket. Even Russia, to a certain extent, parts of Russia, major food producers. So that's another area.
Okay. Right. And can I ask you something? This is going to be maybe a strange question. Could something good come out of it? Could something come out of it where nations realize that they should start using more renewable energy, like solar power, wind power? So could something good come out of it?
Well, some of these European nations, since Ukraine is a war in Europe, European nations have moved a number of them have moved to have kind of, some have tried to go into and have a sort of, I would call it a green portfolio, right? Some of these countries do have wind power, like turbines. Some of them do have some degree of solar. So it's not like other European, like nations in Europe, for example, haven't, don't have some sort of green, some beginnings or some degree of green infrastructure. It depends on the country. Because I think the whole point is not to have any over-reliance on, for example, which is dirty energy. And I think before, one of the major energy sources in Europe was nuclear power, right? Nuclear reactors. That may be kind of downplayed in some European nations. I haven't really looked into nuclear power that much in European nations, but I do know that there's certainly a number of nations have gone, they've gone to wind power, they've gone to solar, they've tried implementing that. But those energy sources cannot completely power the nation. And so you're going to have dependence upon natural gas to some extent, and oil. Oil is a reliable fuel. Petroleum, the different crudes are reliable fuel. So I think I don't know if that's an immediate question that countries are looking at as, green energy at this point in light of this war. But I mean, after all, oil prices have gone up. So, it's possible.
I would like to ask you, how is the economy of the United States been impacted by this catastrophic war and turmoil that is going on between Russia and NATO and the United States? How's the United States been impacted?
Well, I think people would like to say,
and the Fed's going up 0.5% on the interest rate. Did that have anything to do with it?
Well, first of all, you're seeing inflation across the globe. You're seeing inflation go up in various countries. The U.S., of course, inflation's going up. People are looking at higher prices, certainly for oil, and you're also seeing higher food prices. But I would argue, and I was on a program today. I was on a radio show today. Excuse me. I was on a radio show about an hour or so, or more than an hour before this, and talking about this subject. And I was saying that I think when you look at the U.S. economy, you have to look at the pandemic economy, as I call it. You have to look at it from, I would say you have to look at it from a long-term perspective. You have to look at it. I think the U.S. economy did kind of, or that it was showing signs of recovery and getting better, after a couple of years of COVID before this war came along. The reality is, though, that I would say that the issues that the U.S. has having economically are the long-term effects, still effects felt because of sort of pandemic economy, the impact of shutdowns on businesses, small and large alike, the impact of supply chains in stores, and showing, I think, the sort of tenuous nature of supply chains. And so I look at the U.S., I don't see the Ukraine war as I don't see the Ukraine war. I don't see the Ukraine war as I don't see the Ukraine war as the cause of the problem. Having the people attribute to it in regards to the United States. Personally,
so you don't see this as a cause at all.
Longer, I think in terms of longer term, the U.S. economy has already been impacted by the pandemic and the resultant impact of the pandemic and the shutdowns on businesses, both small and large. So I don't really see it from that perspective. I don't really see it from the perspective of the Ukraine war came along. It may have had a slight impact. I mean, you could argue. I think people have argued impact on oil and on the rise in oil, because oil prices have gone up, and but what you see in the United States is that food prices have also gone up prior. Right, food prices were going up, and prices elsewhere were going up. This was before the war. I would say that the war kind of exacerbated what was moving up, what was already happening in the U.S. It wasn't a net direct effect or direct effect. That's how I would say it. I think because, I mean, if you didn't have a pandemic and you didn't have its impact on the economy, and then a war like Ukraine came along, then you could make an argument. Then you could make an argument, yeah, this war in Ukraine did impact them.
You know what? I would like to ask you about, when we're talking about the economy. Why did the Feds go up 0.5% on the interest rate? Why? What was the reason? Out of curiosity.
That I don't know. I haven't looked into that. So again, you have to look at the fact that inflation has gone up around the world, including the United States. So banks like the Fed certainly have it as their main goal, if not one of the main duties, to fight inflation and to deal with inflation. So I can't really answer that question conclusively because I haven't looked into the rise in the interest rate by the Fed.
You know
so I don't think it would be fair for me to answer that.
You know what I like to say? We get to this. Please, we're not finished yet, but tell everybody your YouTube page. Tell everybody your Facebook page, your telephone number, how people get in contact with you. Hello?
Yes.
Hello? Tell everybody your YouTube page, your Facebook page, and all this, so your contact information so people can get in contact with you.
Let me see. If you want to contact me, you can contact me on Twitter at Critic Inc. Critic at Critic INC. That's one way to reach me on Twitter. You can reach me on Facebook. Of course, I'm here to promote my brand new YouTube channel. So that's writer Albert Lanier, and I invite people who, it's primarily, by the way, that channel is again my official YouTube channel. So when I when I am going live and doing live streams, I will be doing formats and programs around writing. So especially if you're interested in writing, I've got a show already planned called Writer's Guide. That'll be dealing with different aspects of writing. I'm also looking to do a show about freelance writing specifically. And so I've got a couple formats ready to go with that.
Can I tell you something? That leaves me out because Lord knows I need spell check. Go ahead.
But yeah, that's my official. That'll be my official. So if people are interested in writing or like writing or literature, or just want to check it out on YouTube, subscribe or what have you. Again, writer Albert Lanier, because it's my official YouTube account. This is again my second ever media tour. So I kicked off Wednesday. I did a show on Wednesday discussing something else, not this subject, but something else. and I just did a radio show today, and I'm here doing Underground Railroad TV. So, and I think I'm doing a show. Let me see, next week. So I'm scheduled to do a show. If everything, my tour is scheduled at this point, tentatively scheduled to last until the end of May. You know, depending on the volume, if I get, you know, more bookings, or depends on that, I may extend it. My first tour last year, that was for something else. But my first media tour that I did from February until early February until early April. So that was unexpected. It ended up being far more successful than I imagined. I never done like a specific, you know, like authors do book tours and people do promotional tours. I had never done a tour. I've been on shows and podcasts and radio shows since 2009, but I had never done like a tour, like a media tour or a promotional tour. And so I organized my own, and yeah, we went pretty well. And thus far, busy enough. Like I said, I did a show today and I'm doing this. So, and I think next week I'm supposed to do something. I don't know what's coming up. So
let me tell my audience, you know what he doesn't know? Shh. He's going to be a regular on Underground Railroad. He's my correspondent from overseas. Go ahead, I'm sorry.
Well, I'm not overseas technically.
I know. But I'm just being animated. I'm being animated, that's all.
So yeah, let me just kind of note some other things. So I was talking about the sanctions that have been Russia has got, and that they've been hit. Banks have been hit, taken off the SWIFT system. You're seeing Russian central bank have their gold and other reserves frozen, 300 billion at least frozen by the US. You're seeing other moves. I would say the corporate aspect is also interesting. A lot of businesses, companies, corporations that did business in Russia are no longer doing so. They're either slowing down their operations or pulling out. Yale School of Management, I believe, did a tally of this, where it was monitoring this. And what I heard, I hope I have this correct. You're getting old. I'm getting old, so.
Hey, you think you getting old? Look at all the gray eyes.
That's true. But you know, so I think Yale School of Management said that at least in their monitoring it, over 800 corporations and companies have either pulled out or slowed down operations and are probably going to pull out or looking to pull out. So you're talking your corporation, major companies like McDonald's. From what I understand, McDonald's is pulling their businesses, their franchises out of Russia, and they are having to take millions of dollars in losses. So you're talking about millions, really billions of dollars, not only lost to the Russian economy, but to some extent lost by businesses, because they've got to basically, close shop and move away, basically. So there's the business and corporate aspect to Russia and Russia's economy. There's the political aspect through sanctions that have been substantial and massive. But you also have what's been going on in regards to, and so when you look at all that, you look at what has the reaction been? How has Russia fared? Right? It's interesting because this is an economic war against Russia, just like Russia has mounted a military war in Ukraine. Now, they've been bombing cities like Kharkiv and Mariupol, and I think starting to bomb rail lines and other electric and industrial areas. When we look at the economic war against Russia, we look at, well, how has Russia reacted? And this is where it gets interesting. I think it's interesting what Russia's done. And I would also get into, after this, some other trends in some areas in terms of economies outside of Russia and the US, obviously. But I would argue that what Russia, it's interesting what Russia's done. One, I think starting from April 1st, they had announced that their oil and gas payments for oil and gas by countries and clients would be done through rubles, meaning Russian currency. Now, why is this significant? 1974, you had the petrodollar deal, right, between U.S. and Saudi Arabia. That made the U.S. dollar the dominant and vitally important currency in the world because it forced countries to buy up U.S. dollars in order to buy oil. Because what the petrodollar deal did in 1974 between Saudi Arabia and the U.S. is it tethered and linked the dollar to oil, right? So in order to buy Saudi oil, right, you had to have U.S. dollars. And of course, the Saudis took dollars they made and put them in U.S. banks.
Yes.
Which is part of the deal. Now, what the Saudis got out of it was they got deals on weapons from the United States.
Yes.
They could buy weapons from the U.S. with that deal, which could be used. For example, the Saudis have fought a war in Yemen.
Yes.
And so they need, and they're make very good use of weapons they've got from the U.S. and other sources. And so that petrodollar, what the petrodollar has made the U.S. it really the indispensable currency in the world because you need it if you're a country that's going to buy oil and gas.
Yes.
And other items too. You hoard and you buy U.S. dollars. It makes the U.S. dollar really, if not the top export, then probably one of the top exports from the United States, which has run trade deficits for years, for decades, really. And so, and this is one of the things I've argued on other shows, which is the petrodollar is, from what I see in my analysis, integral, however you pronounce it, integral, important, paramount to the U.S. economy. Because I said there have been three forces that have shaped the U.S. economy since the 70s, in my view. One was Nixon's move in 1971 to take the U.S. dollar off the Bretton Woods system, which not only tied it to gold, but made the dollar the kind of vital currency in terms of currency rates in the world.
True.
And thus the U.S. dollar plunged after that in terms of value. And that's why the petrodollar deal was so important, because they wanted to get the dollar stable again and allow the dollar to thrive and not just survive, but thrive. And I think the petrodollar deal did do that.
Can I tell you, I want to ask you, I don't think the American dollar will thrive again. I like
that's interesting. Well, see, that's interesting that you say that because, there are indications that the petrodollar deal, which has been around since 1974. Maybe in some degree of trouble, the U.S. as the kind of dominant currency, may be challenged. For example, China has been trying to make a deal with this, and this is made this year, to buy their oil from Saudi Arabia. And the Chinese are a major buyer of oil, major consumer of oil and energy. Again, when you look at economy, China is one of the major economies in the world. And so to help power, not just homes and buildings, but you're talking about businesses. You're talking all kinds of businesses and industries. You need oil, you need energy. So China needs oil for its economy, right? It's for a country. And so they're a major oil buyer of oil, a purchaser of oil. And so they've been trying to make deals with Saudi Arabia to purchase oil, not in dollars, which is what countries normally have to do, or even euros, because euros are the next big currency in the world, global currency, important currency.
I thought it was crypto coins. Okay, but go ahead.
Well, people had their views about crypto. But so the Chinese want to purchase their, like I told you about the petrodollar, right? People have to hoard US dollars in order to buy oil and gas and other items too, because it's easier. The dollar is kind of welcome everywhere or most places in the world because of its strength and its value. So the Chinese want to be able to buy oil outright with the yuan, their currency. So this is a challenge to the US dollar and the meaning the petrodollar, because the Chinese are able to use their currency, oil, from the Saudis, who of course we know have the petrodollar deal with the US. That could open the door up to other countries, because other countries can go and see this and say, well, the Chinese can buy it with yuan. Why don't we buy Chinese currency and use that to buy oil instead of the US dollar? Now, I mentioned before, the Russians, April 1st, announced that if you want to buy oil and gas from them, you have to purchase it in ruble. You can't purchase it in dollars. So this is an interesting move on the part of the Russians. Again, I think it's to size up their currency. And I think this is a move they could do. I don't think they could have done this move before, but it's an interesting move. And so in order to buttress this, the Russians have been trying to buy up gold. So what they've done is they've tied the ruble to gold. Whereas with the Bretton Woods system, the US dollar had been tied to gold. And the petrodollar system essentially ties the dollar to oil, making it as good as gold, as the phrase goes. What the Russians have done is tie the ruble to gold. And they've been trying to get as much gold, purchase as much gold, not just now, but I think previously. So that's an interesting move, tying the ruble to gold so that you have inherent value there. Again, what I noted about the dollar, strong value, reliability. So you tie the ruble to gold, which is another valuable resource, right? Gold and oil are both, gold is a mineral, which is rare, but it has value that is global. Right? Just like oil has value that is global as an energy source.
Yes.
Right? Gold, mineral, material, oil as an energy source. So what you have is you have the ruble tied to the dollar. Sorry, the ruble not tied to the dollar. That'd be crazy. The ruble is kind of compete with the dollar, really. It supplants the dollar in Russia, because what Putin, President Vladimir Putin announced is from now on, countries and clients would have to essentially, in order for oil and gas contracts to be honored, and to be able to get oil and gas, purchase it, they would have to go in. So that means take their dollars and euro. They're going to have to open up an account at Gazprom Bank, I believe, which is one of the largest energy companies in Russia, and deposit their dollars or euros there, and then they would buy up rubles, and those rubles would be that bank would have to go and buy up rubles. They have to buy up rubles. Rubles would have to be used to pay for oil and gas. So that's a move that the Russians have been doing. That the Russians are doing. And we also see the Chinese are looking to they're looking to use their currency and use it to buy oil. Right? So we're looking at these moves. They've also, I think the Chinese have also been in contact with other, I think, Gulf state or oil producing Arab states and others. I think UAE was one they tried to deal with to buy oil with the yuan. So I think that's very important. Extremely important. So you're looking at these moves. It is interesting to see if petrodollar, the US dollar, will still retain its power in the years to come. I mean, I think that's going to be something that's interesting to see, whether it still maintains enormous weight and enormous power in the world. The Russian move is something that the Ukraine war and the sanctions allowed the Russians to do. They were doing this before. They were demanding people buy oil and gas with rules. But because of what's happened, and sanctions, the Russians are now making this move. The Chinese are already trying to make deals with Saudi Arabia in order to do that. Now, again, we're looking at countries that are looking to shift the economic balance. And we know that Russia and China are major allies, right?
Yes.
It's almost like a power block with Russia and China.
Yeah, let me ask you a question. Well, as we talk about the economy, I believe, and I want to get your assessment of it, that the American dollar is going to continue to decline because these are fiat dollars. Okay, fiat means, for audience that don't know, there's so many in circulation, the value is went down. Okay, so it is not backed by gold, it's not backed by silver. So I see the American dollar is getting weaker and weaker. But if I'm wrong, correct me.
Well, I'm curious as to, when you say we, I don't know. I'm curious as to what will happen with the dollar in terms of the petrodollar status. So that's what I'm looking at. Like, I'm looking at the moves that China's making. I'm looking at what Russia's making. You also have, what's his name, Lula, who's the former president of Brazil. I think he's running for the presidency again. He's calling for a sort of South American currency. Again, you have to look at countries that are looking, where that goes, I don't know. But you're looking at countries that are looking to define themselves in the sort of the U.S., European sphere of influence and power economically. And so the U.S. dollar, it's not the U.S. military that has the real power in the world. As sleek and as powerful as it is, it's really the U.S. dollar.
But can I ask you something? But how can it be the U.S. dollar if the U.S. dollar, we know that those are fiat dollars, they're not backed. Fiat means there's so many in circulation. It's not backed by anything anyway. It's not. I mean, we was taking.
That's why the petrodollar deal is so. See, that's why the petrodollar deal is so important.
Okay.
That's what you got to understand. Because what the petrodollar deal allows the U.S. to do, for one thing, is print up a lot of dollars. I've seen a stat somewhere that said that a lot of the dollars that are in circulation, I think now, have been printed in the last couple of years. I think at the very least, and not the last year, the last couple of years, or even less than the last year. So the U.S. can print up as much money as it wants. And the petrodollar allows the U.S. because they know that the dollar has to be purchased. It has to be bought and sold by the bushel by various nations. They've got to keep U.S. dollars in holding, in storage, so that they can go and buy oil or gas or make other purchases. That's really important. So you could argue that ever since, Nixon took the U.S. off the system, that the dollar has kind of been not really tied to much, but it's really tied to oil. That's what I would argue with the $2 bill. The U.S. dollar is tied to oil because you use the dollar to buy oil. And every country, or most countries on earth, and nearly every country, needs oil to some extent. Even the ones that are trying to be green, and the ones that are trying alternative energy, doesn't matter, you still need oil. And to get that oil, the easiest way is U.S. dollars. So you better have a supply of U.S. dollars in your banks, in your currency reserves. You better have those U.S. dollars. And so for the U.S., anything that threatens that hegemony will be a possible disaster, because it will. And I've argued that the U.S. economy is largely based somewhat, to a great extent, the petrodollar is innately vital to the U.S. economy.
Mm-hmm. But
the U.S. couldn't do the kinds of economic things it's doing without the petrodollar. Go ahead.
But you know, to cancel that out, I believe that more countries are going to become more reliant on wind power and solar power, and think about different sources to electric cars. I believe there's a transition that's getting ready to take place. So if I'm wrong, correct me. I'm talking about.
I think that's an interesting assessment. It's not a bad one because you're seeing because of. Well, I'll give you an example, right? I mentioned Saudi Arabia, right? Saudi Aramco, which is the major oil corporation in Saudi Arabia. Mm-hmm. They are, the last I heard, they are the most valuable company at this point. Mm-hmm. In terms of market capitalization, $2.4 trillion. Mm-hmm. They edged out Apple. Apple before had hit about $3 trillion, but then went down market cap. Mm-hmm. So Saudi Aramco is $2.4 trillion, the most valuable company, mm-hmm. I think, on the planet. Why? Because oil prices have gone up. Mm-hmm. You're looking at crude oil prices going up over 30%, right? You're looking at stocks that are up over 25% in terms of the company. Mm-hmm. The last I saw, crude, especially Brent crude, was priced at about $106 a barrel, right? Mm-hmm. And so the companies like Saudi Aramco are making a killing. They're making out like this. They're making millions upon millions upon millions of dollars right now because oil prices have shot through the roof because of the Ukraine war.
Yeah.
So when you talk about energy reliance, alternative energy, and so forth, it's an interesting time to make that point because I have to be honest, I never thought about that. I mean, I'm thinking about oil prices and so forth, but it is interesting you cite that. Other companies, I haven't heard about countries thinking about their oil reliance or their dependence on oil, right? Mm-hmm. I'm sure they are in many respects. I'm sure they are to some great extent, but yeah, I don't really know. I don't really know about the whole green energy aspect of it. So,
mm-hmm. You got a question in the chat room, and
okay.
guy wanted to ask. So it looks as though we will see the $6 to $7 per gallon before summer is out. He wanted to ask you that.
That's interesting. He's making a comment about the price of gas. Mm-hmm. Again, not only has oil gone up, but the gas prices have gone up, which is what hitting Americans. I've been social media anecdotally, but I've been seeing people talking about how much they put in their cars. I don't know what the prices are now because I don't drive, so I don't know what. I don't know what the prices are. What are the gas prices like where you live?
Where I live, it's $5. But you know what? In California right now, David Cox told me it's $7 a gallon.
Yeah, I've been hearing it's expensive in California. Mm-hmm. So 6, 7 doesn't surprise me. Mm-hmm. Depends on how it depends on because the oil companies are making a killing. Mm-hmm. They're really making out like that.
When we talk about economics, this is about economics. What I would like to ask you is, economically, would you say that the standard of living in the United States will go down because we do not have the ability to compete with China when it comes to manufacturing goods in terms of the wages that are being paid? A union worker wants $20 or $15, but so their economy is based differently. so they can produce at a much lower rate. Do you see that having an effect of making the economy and the standard of living going down? Because we cannot compete with China because of their industrial because they put the way they produce industrially. Can you address that?
Well, I think that's been a problem. That's been an issue. I think that's been rather long term or longer term. I don't think it's a recent issue. It's a longer term issue if you're comparing it to other countries, like globalization, right? You know, not the offshoring of monies per se or capital, but sort of the offshoring of companies, if you could call it that. Companies going elsewhere and setting up shop and being able to pay workers much lower rates because of the prevailing wages in a given country or area of a given nation are lower, far lower, because of lack of unionization, perhaps, or because of the kind of economy that the country possesses, lower scale economy, right? So this is a longer term issue. I think it's not a recent issue, longer term issue. And in regards to not cost of living, but it was the
standard of living.
Standard of living
will decline.
I would argue. Go ahead.
I'm listening.
The standard of living, I would argue, has gone down. I think it's already gone down in this country. It's been deteriorating over the years. So that's why I look at longer term and causal effects. Yeah.
But
I look at longer term and causal effects
yeah.
in terms of this country.
Do you believe that aspect? The question I asked you, that the standard of living in the United States will go down because people are not getting the capital, and it's also almost turning into a welfare state. Almost.
Well, I think it's already happened. The standard of living is deteriorated. It's already deteriorating. It's already going down. It could deteriorate further. That might happen. But it's already going down. And I think you have to look at the conditions, right? What are the inherent conditions within businesses, industry, and that will impact such conditions, right? Supply chains for stores, meaning lack of available food items, lack of available products, lack of available other items that people can access, unlike in the past. Right? So you have to look at that. You also have to look at wages. That's always been an issue because wages, I think, have not kept up with cost of living for quite some time. I have argued that this has been the case since the 70s, that you've had this kind of wage stagnation and wage stabilization, but not a wage raise or wage hike or effective one. The wages haven't kept up with inflation. And of course now,
even if it did, it's hyperinflation that is taking place anyway. So go ahead. But you got a question in the chat room. You said we could compete with China in manufacturing if it were not for bad political policies. Can you address that?
I would have to ask, what are the bad political policies that the person making the statement or making the comment is referring to? Which ones do you think are inhibiting the United States from competing with China?
I like to just ask you again to make assessment of that. How can you compete? I don't think that you could compete with me if I'm producing something and you producing something and I'm producing it at a lower price and it's just as good as yours. I don't think you could compete with me. If I'm wrong, tell me.
Well, I mean, again, I have to look at the province of the comment. here, looking at it, and I'm going, you know, again, know what political policy person making the comment is referring to. So,
Okay. Well, what
if
do
I
you
mean,
think about this, the assessment that I just gave you? I say if me and you both are producing products, and I have people that my product is just as good as yours, but it's a lower price. How can you compete with me? I'm China. You the United. You can't compete with me. You can't. If I'm making a product just as good as yours, you can't. But would you address that, please?
well, it depends on what you're referring to. Are you referring to companies, or are you referring to
I'm,
countries?
I'm referring to manufacturing of goods.
Well,
I'm saying
again, you have to
if
look
we are
at
mhm,
right. You have to look at the fact that manufacturing isn't really a major part of the U.S. economy anymore. It really hasn't been in quite a while,
mhm,
because what you found was what happened was deindustrialization
mhm,
that was occurring, certainly after World War II, but certainly after the 50s and 60s. You're
mhm,
getting into the 70s, and you're seeing the beginning of what eventually became deindustrialization in the United States, closing
mhm,
of factories, closing of plants. Again, you saw it in the auto industry with competition from Japan and Germany, for example, for cars, in regards to cars. Um, again, you have to look at from a perspective of, you know, what I would say is, manufacturing really hasn't been a part. So the way what has become more of a part of the U.S. economy has been capital, has been sort of financial sectors and financial industry. You know, I think Wall Street has become a part of the economy.
Would you say that we talk about the economy? Wouldn't you say that China is the new juggernaut when it comes to economy? They
Hmm.
will be leading. They will be leading the world in technology, in other things, in manufacturing. Would you say that China, economically, they are the
Well,
new
China's making trying to
juggernaut?
make the moves. I mean, they've gone through their own financial issues because of the pandemic and the impact of their country
Mm-hmm.
for obvious reasons. That was the pandemic, really. Um, So, but they're trying to make the move. That's why I look at something like China's move to use the yuan, its currency, to pay for oil from Saudi Arabia.
Mm-hmm.
I also see. I mean, you also have to look at the fact that I think their digital renminbi. They've gone and they've started digital currency, the Chinese have. So
Yeah.
I think they have their own brand of digital currency. So they moves.
Yeah.
How, and of course they're, they're not the largest market. They're one of the largest markets in the world
Yeah.
for products,
Yeah.
uh, and a major manufacturing locale.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Mm-hmm.
we'll have to. I mean, you have to look at what moves China makes, like trying to get their currency to be the currency they can use to buy oil, and
Mm-hmm.
looking at other moves they make, their alliance with Russia and their efforts with Russia to have economic cooperation. For
Yeah.
example, Visa and MasterCard left Russia because of the Ukraine war. My
Mm-hmm.
understanding is China came in with its credit card system and tried to link up with Russian networks to help make
Mm-hmm.
that work.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you know, we would have to see not just after this war. I'm not quite sure if China will become the preeminent economic power in the world. They may become. I don't. I think that's not a bad bet to make. But it's
Mm-hmm.
again, I think a lot of it rides on the moves with currency and, to my mind, whether the petrodollar holds, U.S. petrodollar
Mm-hmm.
holds,
Mm-hmm. Now you know
and
what? Take a little
that have
break.
to
I
put
want to
China's
ask you to. You
economy.
know what? Can you give your website again and give your information, and then we'll move on.
Okay. Yeah, like I said, I'm here on a media tour promoting my YouTube, my official YouTube channel, and the name of that channel is Writer Albert Lanier. That's Writer Albert Lanier. WRALBENIER. And that's my brand new, it's official YouTube channel. I had never had it on YouTube really. I have another channel which I do live streams, but I've only done that for over a month, so I'm brand new to YouTube. And this, of course, this is my new YouTube channel, my official YouTube channel, as a writer, as a professional writer, as a former journalist and freelancer. So Writer Albert Lanier, my official YouTube channel, my official channel on YouTube. Check it out. There are already some TikTok videos I brought over, a series called From the Freelancer, and people can check out. They're about a minute long, you know, and they deal with different aspects of freelancing. So, and Writer Albert Lanier.
Yes. You know what? For people that are out there listening, join his YouTube page. You know what? What I'm going to do is once I get the link, I'm going to put it in the description and go to his link. I'm going to put the link to his Facebook page. So you got another question in here. You know, thank you for sharing that information. It said, this is a question that addresses the issue we just talked about. It said, bad policies are not giving companies incentives to pay workers fairly. The government's giving incentives to companies to bring manufacturing back to the United States of America. He said they're not giving incentives to come back to the United States of America in manufacturing. You want to address that?
I think he's kind of addressing companies that have, you know, probably gone overseas, set up plants and installations. Well, you know, you could argue the states have tried. You could say, you know, some of these states have tried slashing taxes for corporations and companies, and try to get companies to move into their states. Pretty much.
Froze up. I don't know what happened.
Pretty much states that I would say giveaways, basically. Just giving them try. But you know, I mean, what incentives can be done? You know, the usual incentives will be allowing corporations not to pay taxes, and that's already happened. It's what happened during the Trump era. A lot of these corporations, major corporations, that basically skate by with few of any corporate taxes, or few of any taxes. So incentives, I don't know. It depends on what you mean by incentives. It depends on what incentives. I'm against giving tax giveaways and not having companies paying their taxes. I think there's only so far you can go with that.
You know something? Oh, go ahead. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Yeah, that's it. Go ahead.
My question is to you about China in the United States and Taiwan. Okay. What I would like to know to you economically, U.S. sort of has ties with Taiwan. I would like to ask you economically, would the United States get, in your opinion, would the U.S. get involved if China did decide to take back over the mainlands of Taiwan? And economically, how would that affect us?
I don't know, to be brutally honest with you. I don't think the U.S. isn't economically dependent on Taiwan. The U.S. has a security arrangement with Taiwan. So it's more of a political you know, I think for the U.S., I mean, if anything were to happen to Taiwan, I think technically the U.S. would have to get involved in it.
Okay.
Especially involve China. But in terms of economics, I don't think the U.S. has any interest, short or long term, in Taiwan. So I don't know how any impact to Taiwan would impact the U.S. economically.
But they support them. We support them. We support them. But you said the U.S. would support if there was a military advance from China. They would. Well, if that's the case, what would be the benefit of the United States aiding them then? If that's the case, if they have no economic, what would be the benefit?
Well, again, it's a security arrangement, right? You know, you have to look at it in the context of China, right?
Yeah.
So the U.S. has normally supported Taiwan, and or at the very least, you know, recognizes some degree of sovereignty for Taiwan as a nation. China doesn't, that I'm aware of. So, again, I'm not aware of any economic dependence. I don't think the U.S. has any economic dependence on Taiwan. I think the only difference would be in relation to China. The U.S. does have economic interest with China. U.S. corporations certainly do. It's a major, for example, the film industry. It's a major part of the foreign audience for U.S. movie, and I guess TV show, but U.S. movie. And so I think the impact would be not from Taiwan, but from relations with China.
Okay. You got a question in the chat room, and the question is: if China takes over Taiwan, it would be devastating to the U.S. economy. That's because we lost so much in manufacturing. Would you address that?
Well, again, I don't see how the law on itself would be devastating to the U.S. economy.
No, that's not what he's saying. He's saying if a war happened, it would be.
Well, actually, it is. Because if China won, it would be devastating to the economy because you lost so much in manufacturing. But again, taking a tiny country like Taiwan is not economic strategic interest for the United States. The U.S. is not economically dependent upon. It's not economically dependent upon Taiwan.
But did you just say that we would get involved, though? Wait a minute now.
Well, yeah, because of this, because, you know, yeah, I think the U.S. would be involved in China try to assert control or try to control or try to do what the Russians did in 2014, and that is annex Crimea. If the Chinese try to annex Taiwan, yeah, the U.S. I think would have to be involved. But again, the comment states that the U.S. lost manufacturing. But I just stated, U.S. economy is not from manufacturing, and Taiwan isn't a vital economic interest to the United States that I'm aware of. So if Taiwan is lost, the problem isn't Taiwan, as I just outlined, it's China and relations to China. If the U.S. ends up with total economic severance from China, that is U.S. corporations, U.S. companies, they're cut off from that market. That would have an impact on the U.S. economy. Taiwan? No. Taiwan, I'm aware of, is not of vital strategic economic importance to the U.S. Political interest to the United States, of course. but not economic interests that I'm aware of.
Okay. See, there's another question for you. It said the U.S. may not be totally on the economics. I don't know what, but it will hurt. It will hurt us, and it will trickling down effect will come down to the American people. Do you agree with that? A conflict with China? Do you believe that would have?
It's kind of vague. Yeah, I can't really respond to that. U.S. may not be totally on their economy. Yeah, it's kind of vague. I can't really address that.
Okay. But you know, man, I'm running low on time. But you know what? I want to give you a chance. You know what? I've been asking you so many questions. You probably got finishing comments that it was perhaps something that I didn't get the opportunity to add. You wanted to say your own self, and I'm gonna stay out of it and listen to you.
Okay. I think I covered most of what I wanted to talk about. Well, I'll say what's interesting about what's happening economically, the economic conflict, to me, involving Russia is more interesting than the military conflict in Ukraine. I think because it will have longer term impacts, not only in terms of Russia, possibly Europe, but also outside of Russia in what other countries are doing, right? And looking at what other countries are doing politically, right? The fact that India has chosen not to, get involved in any way, shape, or form, not to offend Russia, not to get involved in that. They abstained, I think, from voting at the end. Looking at, for example, what China does in its actions, will it be able to, it hasn't already, if it really be able to make that deal with the Saudis and get their currency to be used as a currency they can use to purchase oil and gas. See what the Russians do in regards to their economy. I know the Russians have a banking system they've been working on comparable to SWIFT. If they can implement that system and put that into effect. Also seeing what happens in terms of Europe. How will the Europeans respond? Not the Europeans respond, but how will the Europeans, I think, move on in regards to oil and gas? I know the U.S. wants to make deals because the U.S. is a major natural gas producer. The U.S. no doubt wants to make deals in regards to gas in Europe and providing gas in Europe. And the reality, though, is, for all of the posturing of the European nations, the EU especially, towards Russia, they've still been buying oil and gas from Russia throughout over 7 days of this conflict.
I didn't know that. Wow.
They started buying oil and gas. They continue buying oil and gas even after the invasion.
Wow.
The U.S. I think not long ago, U.S. said it was going to ban Russian oil the U.S. was putting a ban on Russian oil. But the reality is oil and gas. But the oil for the U.S., the use of Russian oil for the United States is minimal. I think the figure that I saw, one figure that I saw was like 2%, maybe a little larger, but 2% was one figure I saw.
Wow.
So again, you have to look at the fact the European nations, EU, the countries in the EU are overtly, well, maybe not overtly, but it's obvious that they're financing through oil and gas. Again, oil and gas exports comprise over 30% of export revenue for the Russians. They are essentially funding this war.
Wow.
And people know. It's not secret. It's not really secret. It's obvious. I mean, the EU can oil and gas. They can make those moves, but a lot of these European nations are highly dependent on Russian oil and gas. It's going to be hard to find alternatives. Not impossible, but it's going to be a lot more difficult. Not only because of the kind of crude that's used, meaning oil, kind of crude that's used, but the fact that the Russians have, it's easier to get Russian oil and gas. It's closer.
I didn't know that, man.
Wow.
So That, you know, that's I think an interesting takeaway. You know, the real duplicitous nature of war, I think, in the real, I think, economically underhanded way. When we see someone like Russia, I mean, they can they can produce all the sanctions they want. The Russians are still waging war, and they're still able to, I think, partly in large part being funded by European nations themselves. The same European nations that are grandstanding and saying they love Ukraine, they're all for Ukraine. Some of them send weapons, some of them send supplies. But at the end of the day, business is business. On that note, I invite people, again, I'm on a media tour to promote my official channel, which is Writer Albert Lanier. So I advise people to go check it out, subscribe if you want, especially if you're a writer or you want to be a writer, looking to be a writer, whatever, or not, just interested. Check it out, Writer Albert Lanier on YouTube.
Yeah. You know what, Albert? You made me think about something. I don't know if you ever saw this movie, New Jack City.
Yeah, to some extent.
You know what? When you talk about these European nations and them still bad, Nino Brown was the drug dealer, and you know what he said? He said ain't nothing personal, it's business.
Yeah. It really is.
I don't know if you remember that particular part.
Vaguely. The only other line that I recall, I think the line that I recall from that movie was "See ya and I don't want to be ya," or something.
Yeah, but the one I recall is, "Hey man, AG, it ain't nothing personal, it's business." But I would say this the last question. What you say? That China is an emerging leader, will be emerging leader of the world because of their manufacturing, because of their educational system. Would you say that they will be a major leader?
I think they're already a major leader. Yeah. I think you have to look at China and you have to look at Russia.
Yeah.
Because those two are making moves right now.
Yeah. Yeah. China.
They're making the moves. They're putting their strategy, they're putting tactics and into play, and they're trying to make their strategies come true. And with the Russians, we'll see how they fare after the Ukraine war. But the Chinese in particular, and some other countries, you know, they're trying to make their economic moves because of what's going on.
You know what? China is sitting back, even though they do their hairs like this. They're making a case study of what's going on in Russia so they can know how to deal with it, because China's smart, in my opinion. They're smart nation. I love the United States. So we're gonna end this, but you know what? Before he goes, I'm gonna ask him to give his information one more time, and I encourage people to go to his platform to support him in his endeavor to disseminate information for writers. I can't come to his show because hell, I need spell check. Hell, I can't. So go ahead, and then we gonna chime on that. Assalamu alaikum to everybody, but go ahead and give them your last information.
All right. Yeah. So, like I said, I'm on a media. This is part of my media tour to promote my channel. My YouTube channel is Writer Albert Lanier. Find it on YouTube. I already have videos up. A series called From the Freelancer that I had on TikTok. Brought it over to YouTube, so you can check those videos out. About a minute long each. A little tips and hints for people interested in being freelancers. So that's Writer Albert Lanier on YouTube. I'm also on Substack. I have an article on Substack. So Albert Lanier, I think Substack.com. Or is it albertlanier.substack.com? I can't recall. I'm no good with really, but I'm also on Substack. And I'm also on Twitter @Critic. I'm on Facebook under my name.
And I'm going to tell to the listening audience what I'm going to do is once he sends me those links, I will put it in the description at the bottom. And if you like the Underground Railroad, we come on television show in Chicago every Saturday night at 10:30 p.m. Central Time, Chicago. Okay, on CAN TV, and always looking for guests and donations. If you want to send a donation, fine. If you don't want to send one, that's fine. You can send me a prayer because I know that no matter how many cards I pass out, how many donations I ask for, I won't get any more than what Allah wants me to get, or God wants me to get. But I am thankful. I am thankful. And I am fortunate to have someone with immense knowledge to come on my platform, which is your platform. Okay. And he is appreciated. He's knowledgeable. And before y'all think I'm shirking or elevating him to a God-like status, I ain't doing that because the knowledge that he has comes from God. And I thank you. I thank you. I thank you for that. And I hope that
Thank you very
and I hope that you will continue to be an integral part of the Underground Railroad television show in Chicago. I appreciate you. Thank you.
Well, I appreciate you having me on. I appreciate it. It was a pretty busy day. You know, at first I wasn't sure because I was locked out of the system. I was like, how do I get in? And actually, it worked. Thank goodness. So again,
I forgot one thing. I forgot one thing. You know what? Share this video. Share it. Like it. Comment. I'm sorry. Go ahead, brother.
Yeah. So yeah, it's been a busy day. So I had a radio interview like an hour before I did this, and then try to deal with, try to get into this system, and then finally got on. So now I can relax.
Okay. Hey, but you share this on YouTube. Everybody that's listening, go to his platform. Share this on YouTube. Like, share, and subscribe. I sound like a commercial now. And if you need a video,
like, share, subscribe.
Yeah, yes. And if you need video production done in the Chicago area, SHAYMAR Media Production does it. Okay. And we do PSAs and we do video editing and parties. And I'm not going to say bar mitzvah. We do a bar mitzvah, but I never done one. We do all that. And that's not to make fun of it because I respect the bar mitzvah. Respect the mitzvah. So, brother, I want to thank you, and it's time for me to make my salats. Salats, for people that don't know, that's prayers. Because
all right,
truly, we should not put material things before the Creator. So, I got to get down on my knees and beg to submit to the will of Allah. Brother, assalamu alaikum. I'm going to give you assalamu alaikum to everybody out there listening and tell you thank you, brother. You are a part of the Underground Railroad television show in Chicago. Brother Albert. Okay?
All right. Thank you for having me.
All right. Thank you. You take care, my brother. All right. Assalamu alaikum. So, it was indeed a pleasure. Brother Albert is a very intelligent man. And subhanallah to Allah, I appreciate him being an integral part of the Underground Railroad television show in Chicago. So, and you know what? I pray. I'm gonna pray for the people that are in the Ukraine and people, Muslims in China, that are being oppressed, and for all people. Uzu billahi minash shaitanir rajim. Alhamdulillah rabbil alamin arrahmanir rahim maliki yawmiddin iyyaka na'budu wa iyyaka nasta'in ihdina siratal mustaqim siratal ladina an'amta alayhim ghayril maghdubi alayhim waladdallin. Allah, help the people that are being persecuted in the Ukraine. Help the Russian leader. will come to your senses. The NATO will come to their senses, and we know that everything that's going on is by Allah's permission. We talking about it to educate people, but I ask you to please thank you, give me strength to continue on with this platform. But I stop Allah if you want me to stop, whatever you want, because I'm bowing down and I'm in submission to you. But I pray for the people in China that are being persecuted, the UK, indigenous people over there in Australia. We're finally getting reparations. But Allah, we think that we know best. You know best. We know that the enemy plans, Allah. But you plan, according to Quran, you plan, and you are the best planner of all. And to the people that listened, thank you. If it was one person that listened, some people got a million followers, but it's okay if it's one person that listens. Because you know what? Allah, whatever Allah wants, that's sufficient for me. I'm not going to beat my chest and say I'm great. I'm only trying to be what Allah wants me to be. And you know what? I acknowledge I fall short. That's why I'm finna go. I'm finna get up here. For people that don't know Isha, Isha has passed. Isha is here. And that's the last prayer for Muslims. And I'm finna go upstairs, if Allah allows me, and make my salats and thank Allah for everything He done. So any good that you heard tonight, that came from Allah, that came from God. The bad that you heard, that came from ourselves. Okay. So people that gave the donations, thank you to my PayPal account. But if you gave me prayers, thank you. I appreciate that. Because you know what? And tomorrow morning, inshallah, if it's Allah's will, I will have on Sophia Stewart, the mother of the Matrix. Inshallah. Inshallah means if that's Allah's will. And she's the owner of the Matrix and the creator of the Terminator. So tune in, like, share, and subscribe. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi barakatuh. Alhamdulillah. Assalamu alaikum to the